Star Wars anime is a phrase that rolls off the tongue so naturally, that sounds so right, that I wonder constantly why the galaxy so close we're in it hasn't given us more cause to say it. Certainly, it's not for lack of trying on anime's part. The same year Return of the Jedi dropped, the studio that would be Gainax was already mixing lightsaber duels and Yoda Rakugo into the bootleg jambalaya of Daikon 4, and a year later, in 1984, Studio Madhouse and legendary director Yoshiaki Kawajiri grafted a single Leia bun and rebel jumpsuit with the serial numbers filed off onto their adaptation of Lensman, a series of E.E. Smith novels from the same pulp sci-fi era that inspired Star Wars, which is a pretty cool movie in its own right that I may cover at a later date. But back then, anime just didn't have the cachet that it does today, and there was no interest the other way from Star Wars' license holders. In the late 90s, Dark Horse Comics did commission a series of manga based on the original trilogy and The Phantom Menace, and over the years we'd see a couple of manga anthologies and a short-lived adaptation of the Clone Wars TV show, but on the animation front, well, the Clone Wars TV show, specifically the one done by Genndy Tartakovsky, was the closest we ever got. The CGI Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels do draw inspiration from anime too, and do a decent job of scratching the itch, but it's just not the same thing. The Star Wars universe is, of course, an enticing visual playground for animators of all stripes, but at the same time, its visuals and themes are deeply rooted in samurai iconography and Japanese film, particularly the works of Akira Kurosawa and specifically The Hidden Fortress, the plot of which was the basis for both A New Hope and The Phantom Menace. As such, Japanese artists bring a unique and valuable cultural perspective to the galaxy far, far away. Also, on top of that, the anime industry kinda has a decades-long track record of creating the best serialized high-concept sci-fi media in the entire world. So, a Star Wars anime would obviously be good. So when Disney Plus announced that they'd be bringing some of the most vibrant creative talents in the industry together and letting them loose with total non-canonical freedom on an anthology series a la The Animatrix, it struck me as potentially the single best decision the House of Mouse has made since they acquired the IP. So, now that they're out, how do these original anime shorts stack up to all that potential? Are they worth watching and worth signing up for Disney Plus if you only stream anime? Emphatically, yes. To the first question. The second one is a bit more complicated. Disney Plus does offer some choice features that anime fans will appreciate, especially the behind-the-scenes featurettes that accompany each of the anthology's 9 episodes, but what they don't offer, inexplicably, is subtitles for the original Japanese voice tracks. The only option is bulky closed captions that often cover the action with dialogue and sound effect descriptions, which don't even match the audio half the time, to add insult to injury. And in case you were hoping they'd throw some Disney money at the dub to make up for that, well, they certainly spent a lot hiring Hollywood talent like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, David Harbour, and Lucy Liu, but with few exceptions, the leads in these shorts lack serious voiceover experience, and it really shows. It's not a deal breaker in most of the dubs, except for Tatooine Rhapsody, which we'll get to, but it's a noticeably suboptimal listening experience, and it sucks to have to choose between that and slapping distracting black bars across the bottom of the screen. So, while I think it is very important to pay for the anime you watch whenever you can, it would be very easy to improve on the official viewing experience in a number of ways, if you know what I mean. You can watch all of Gravity Falls and Phineas and Ferb on Disney Plus, though. Plus, Futurama and The Simpsons, they kind of own everything, so it's still totally worth it for that. Now, with that question out of the way, I'd like to talk briefly about what makes each of these brief specials, special, both in terms of the cool things they do and the cool people who made them, many of whom have made other cool things that, say, Star Wars fans discovering them for the first time through these anthologies might also enjoy if they knew about. Hint, hint, wink, wink, I'm giving you recommendations. For example, The Duel, which kicks off the anthology, was written by Afro Samurai creator Takashi Okazaki and produced at Kamikaze Doga under Takanobu Mizuno. The animation animation director of the delightfully zany Batman Ninja. Using their combined experience in setting up cool samurai duels and crafting Sengoku-stylized CGI, the pair have brought Star Wars back to its roots in a loving, mostly monochromatic tribute to the works of Akira Kurosawa, in the process giving us this Straw Hat Ronin R2-D2 that you already bought merchandise of as I was finishing this sentence. It also gives us, true to its title, one of the absolute best lightsaber duels in the entire franchise, between the Sith leader of a band of bandits that's out to extort a small village, and a Sith Ronin with some apparent beef against his fellow Dark Jedi. The choreography is exceptionally clever and plays out across widely varied terrain, and the animation and cinematic framing are just as great as you'd expect from the studio behind the JoJo OPs. The rustic, feudal Japanese background and character designs also blend beautifully with the familiar Star Wars tech and alien species, making for a work as surprisingly cohesive as it is compelling. Even with that awesome fight, my favorite part of this might just be the ending shot, which seamlessly transitions up from the Ronin walking into the sunset of his Kurosawa-esque world to the iconic expanse of stars that serves as the backdrop for every Star Wars credit sequence, connecting everything we've just seen to that greater universe. Which, considering that we're about to get an entire novel about this mysterious Ronin and the feudal Jedi Empire from which he hails, may even end up being canonically true someday. But the canon isn't what I'm interested in so much as the statement that shot makes about Star Wars. The galaxy far, far away is a big place where anything can happen, which is what makes the prospect of a Star Wars anime, especially one not bound by the names, places, and events of the films, so damn exciting. If you're not a slave to the lore, you can do damn near anything with this universe. Like have Jabba the Hutt's son run away from home to start a pop-punk band with a cute girl droid bassist, a three-headed Oni alien drummer, and a secret Order 66 orphan on vocals, which then plays a song so awesome that Jabba decides to give them a record deal instead of having them thrown to the Sarlacc. Does that square with all the established details of the official world-building Bible? No, but we get to see Boba Fett crowd surfing, so shut up and enjoy it. Enjoy it in Japanese, I mean. Because while the original Hiroyuki Yoshino rendition of the song that saves their asses kicks a ton of ass, it sucks an equal amount of ass in English. Come on and lose yourself now, everybody. Do the dancing, every move your body. We just be shouting daily, how we love it. Do the dance, that baby, all about it. I mean, it really feels like listening to Joseph Gordon-Levitt sing that should cue up a different ending where Jabba has them all shot on the spot. Assuming you don't ruin it for yourself with the wrong audio track, though, this short has all the charm, energy, and personality you could ask for from Studio Colorido, who also gave us Penguin Highway, Burn the Witch, A Whisker Away, and Pokemon Twilight Wings. And it's especially impressive for a directorial debut. I'm really excited to see what Taku Kimura comes up with next. Of course, much of the appeal of an anthology like Visions comes from seeing established directors apply their unique visions to such a ubiquitous fictional setting. And since there are few directors in the world anywhere near as visionary as Studio Trigger's Hiroyuki Imaishi, his short, The Twins, is a real treat. It opens in classic Star Wars fashion on a slow zooming shot of a Star Destroyer emerging from shadow in the depths of space. Then the zoom gets a whole lot quicker to reveal an entire second Star Destroyer duct taped to the first one. The reason for this is that the Empire, and later the First Order, engineered these twins strong in the dark side of the Force, planning to channel their vast energy into a Death Star rivaling super cannon that, you know, none of this really matters. It's all just an excuse to set up a duel between Promare's Leo and a sort of Han Solo vest type deal, and a blonde Sith Ojo-sama with 8 lightsabers, 2 of which are stiletto heels, which is itself also just an excuse to mash a bunch of iconic Star Wars imagery into the coolest force-fueled anime fight Hiroyuki Imaishi can imagine. And this is the guy who capped off Gurren Lagann with 2 god-sized robots throwing galaxies at each other, so that's pretty fucking cool. The coolest, one might say, and use zero hyperbole. With a finale that takes the coolest visual from the coolest Star Wars movie, search your feelings, angry nerds, you know it to be true, and asks, okay, but what if instead of a spaceship cutting another spaceship in half, it was a guy, Kamina posing on the nose of an X-Wing with a giant lightsaber. And also it tears a girl's clothes off, because anime. The Force is mighty strong with the twins. I want to talk about it all day and watch it so many more times, but we gotta move on, and not just because I want to keep this video short. There's still a lot of good stuff to get to. The 4th episode, The Village Bride from Kinema Citrus, is just as much of a joy to watch for mostly different reasons. I mean, it does also feature a godly lightsaber fight. All of these do, except Tatooine Rhapsody. It just kind of comes with the doing a Star Wars anime territory. But before that fight, which is against a group of bandits backed by an army of reprogrammed separatist battle droids, we get to spend some time contemplating the more spiritual dimensions of the Force against the gorgeous, slightly supernatural backdrop of the lush forest planet those bandits are besieging. The short evokes a surreal, earthy mood that Hitoshi Haga, as the director who introduced us to one of anime's most striking settings with the pitch-perfect first episode of Made in Abyss, is especially adept at conveying. Doubly so when he's backed by the musical genius of Kevin Penkin, and golly, would you look at that, what a coincidence, that guy also did the music for this thing. I could say more, but I really don't think I need to. The Village Bride is a sublime, meditative audio-visual experience with some very cool fight scenes also. It makes a nice companion to, and break from, the high-octane intensity of the last short. A breather we'll need going into what might be the most exciting episode of the bunch. Not for its action or high concept, mind you. The Ninth Jedi is no slouch in either department. Kenji Kamiyama didn't come to direct Ghost in the Shell, Ultraman, Blade Runner, and Lord of the Rings anime by slacking on his action, but unlike the rest of these shorts, it's not really about exploring one fun idea to its fullest. Clocking in at 22 minutes with an A-plot involving a group of exiled Jedi waiting to meet a guy who's promised them lightsabers, and a B-plot about the daughter of a sabersmith rushing to deliver those weapons after the Sith attack her father, it feels distinctly like the pilot episode of a much bigger TV series. And Disney? If you listen to nothing else in this video, even the complaints about your subtitles, which are garbage and do need fixing, please, for the love of El Cantare, buy this show from Kenji Kamiyama and Production IG. I don't care if it can be canon. It should be, and it's set years after the rise of Skywalker, so it totally could be, but I need more of this no matter what. Today. These characters have me charmed with their chemistry and intrigued by their various mysteries, and the hook at the end, which I won't spoil because this is a really well-told, unpredictable story, has me dying to know what happens next. Also, the 80s OVA level of technical specificity with the lightsabers and other mechanical shits, super here for that. It's what Star Wars has always needed and also deserved. Though, I guess the flip side of all that is if this doesn't get picked up, which it probably won't because we live in the darkest timeline, watching it will result in you being profoundly bummed at some point in the future. But it still works almost as well as a standalone piece as it does a bittersweet teaser for the Star Wars anime you've always dreamed of and still may never get, so it's worth watching either way. Short number 6, TOB1, gives us another breather by paying breathtakingly beautiful tribute to the man and manga that started this whole anime business to begin with, Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy. Much like Astro, the titular droid of this short is a humanoid little guy with real boy aspirations, raised by a fluffy-haired old science dude with a big nose. Also, his name is a reference to Tobio Tenma, the real boy Astro Boy was based on. Though instead of being a superhero in the big city, TOB1 lives alone on a desert planet that his dad's trying to terraform, spending the long days playing with his robot pals and dreaming of life and adventure as a Jedi. Directed by Spanish-born Science Saru veteran Abel Gongora, who also led the gorgeous Flash animation in Lu Over the Wall and Devilman Crybaby, and also gave us the awesome openings of Eizouken and Garo Vanishing Line, TOB1 features far and away the most expressive, fluid, and fun animation in this entire anthology, which is only natural. Its simple, timeless designs harken back to the golden age of animation and are made to move with the same rubber hose dynamism as Steamboat Willie, which lends itself both to some really cute comedy moments and to the obligatory sick lightsaber duel. This isn't the best short in the bunch, but it is one of the most easily enjoyable for anyone who doesn't absolutely hate fun. So, a fair number of Star Wars fans probably won't like it, but as someone with a passion for animation and animation history, it had me smiling ear to ear from beginning to end. The Elder, Trigger's second entry in the anthology, also harkens back to an older style of anime, but curiously not one of the cartoony styles that its studios become known for. Instead, Trigger president Masahiko Otsuka has gone for a more detailed and grounded look reminiscent of sci-fi anime from the late 80s and 90s, which doesn't quite play to Trigger's strengths as a studio. There's defo a bit of jank to be found here, but that style is kind of ideal for exploring the darker side of the Star Wars universe. And this one does get dark, at least in terms of visuals and atmosphere. Investigating a disturbance in the Force on an isolated rural planet, a Jedi Knight named Tajin and his Padawan Dan encounter one of the last remnants of the original Sith Order in hiding after his comrades all went extinct. The Elder has renounced his code, and thus has no real ideological beef with the Jedi, but he now lives only for blood and the thrill of battle, so he's sure as shit gonna fight him anyway, dual-wielding a menacing pair of lightsaber tachi. There is some decent character writing and banter in this episode, along with just enough world-building to make the planet feel lived on, but like the duel and the twins, this is, at its heart, all about the action, and that action is pretty damn brutal in how it's framed and animated. But it's also bloodless and lacking in real narrative bite. The Elder is a cool concept for a villain, and the short does a great job of making him feel intimidating and the action around him feel suspenseful, but he doesn't really do anything to pay off that setup. This is easily the least satisfying short of the bunch, which is a shame because it almost feels like an old-school, ultra-violent Star Wars OVA that never was, and a real one of those would have been amazing. On the topic of things that need to exist, I always felt the Star Wars universe could do with some bunny girls, and Geno Studios' Lop and Ocho, the solo directorial debut of Eizouken and Mob Psycho animator Yuki Igarashi, finally gives us just that. Also, Lop is actually a deep-cut reference to Jackson, a green talking rabbit smuggler from Marvel's very first run of Star Wars comics all the way back in the 70s. So as a bonus, if you hear anyone complaining about them injecting furry shit into Star Wars, you get to call that guy a fake fan. In addition to the aforementioned cute bunny girl and the kooky space Yakuza family that adopts her, this episode is about a planet in the early stages of Imperial occupation and uses that setting to explore some interesting themes of industry and civilization overtaking and polluting nature. Real Ghibli shit, basically. Not unlike what The Village Bride does, but on a much wider scale and with a seriously impressive level of environmental detail in its rusted, ramshackle cityscape. If you come to Star Wars for its sense of place, for the lived-in atmosphere, this short is where you'll find it at its strongest. It also contains a surprisingly affecting emotional arc that, again, I won't spoil. At 21 minutes, this is practically an anime pilot itself, and a damn good one at that. Though it does tie off a lot more cleanly than The Ninth Jedi, leaving us at a point where it could continue, but the story's ultimate destination is perfectly clear. Speaking of endings, Science Saru's second entry in this anthology, Akakiri, caps the whole thing off on a deliciously dark note. Directed by studio co-founder and current CEO Eun-Young Choi, the short follows an Old Republic Jedi named Tsubaki who, haunted by prophetic dreams of someone dying in front of him, reunites with his lost love, Princess Misa, to help reclaim her planet's throne from her wicked Sith aunt. If you know anything about love and Jedi, it's not hard to guess how all that'll go down, but knowing the destination takes nothing away from this somber, character-rich journey. It's not just about the destined fall, but exploring the faults and virtues in Tsubaki's character that make that fall inevitable. And as it chooses to explore his character through a plot based heavily on the Hidden Fortress, the whole thing serves double duty as a dark mirror of A New Hope. With its cinematic framing and smooth, nuanced character animation, Akakiri feels like a more refined take on what Science Saru tried with Japan Sinks 2020, and that style really suits this vibe of violent melancholy. The use of color and light here is especially striking, even more so than in Trigger's work, not just for how it helps to set the mood of each scene, but how it adds to the action. Each of these shorts puts its own animated flourish on the lightsaber, but I'm particularly fond of this effect where the after image of the blade hangs in the air for a moment after it passes through. It adds a real sense of weight and impact to the action, which in turn helps to ground the emotional content of the story, and the motion trail allows the animators to depict extremely quick and complicated choreography without worrying about the viewer losing track of what's going on. Narratively and aesthetically, I think Akakiri is the strongest part of this anthology, and it's the perfect choice to close the series out on, as that leaves the ending room to properly linger with you. It's not quite my favorite of the bunch. The Twins is just such a delight. 15 straight minutes of bashing Star Wars vehicles and action figures together in the most ludicrous ways imaginable. But Akakiri ranks a close second for crafting a haunting aesthetic experience unlike anything else I've seen from this universe. For similar reasons, and also because I think the whole droid chassis Ronin bucket hat thing is a genius character design flourish, The Village Bride is my third favorite. I'd put The Ninth Jedi right after it, though that may rise through the ranks if it ever actually goes somewhere. Then fifth place goes to The Duel for how effectively it loops Star Wars back to its origin. Lop and Ocho comes in sixth, followed by Tatooine Rhapsody. I love how they both show a less action-oriented side of life in this universe. TOB1 comes in eighth. It was utterly charming, but admittedly a little light on substance. Then there's a big gap from that to ninth place, The Elder, which is the only one of these that really left me cold. I adore every other short in this anthology, though. Publicly asking what Star Wars should be is about the quickest way I can think of to start a full-blown riot, but everyone does have their own answer to that question, and Visions comes the closest to mine of any Star Wars thing I've seen in ages. Each entry is playful and personal, a clear product of artistic vision, not corporate mandates in alignment with some grand franchise roadmap. In my opinion, Star Wars works best as a canvas for creative expression. Canonicity be damned, save where it serves that end. That is just like my opinion, though, man. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this anthology as a whole and the individual episodes in the comments down below. I'm Jeff Thu, professional nerf herder, signing out from a wretched hive of scum and villainy.